Welcome to the 15th lecture on representations of finite groups. Today we are going to prove a divisibility theorem that states that if we take any irreducible representation of a finite group, then the degree of the representation divides the order of the group. To prove this result, we need to develop some elementary number theory. So let us begin with this notion of an algebraic number. Recall that a complex number z belonging to C is called an algebraic number if z is root of a polynomial with integer coefficients. Notice that z being an algebraic number is equivalent to saying that it satisfied a polynomial equation with rational coefficient, because we can always cross multiply the denominator, and it turns out that plenty of numbers are algebraic numbers. The set of all algebraic numbers is a subfield of the field of complex numbers, and it's also called the closure of the field of rational numbers. Obviously, all rational numbers are algebraic numbers. Many irrational numbers are also algebraic. For example, square root 2, square root 3, and so on. Square root p, where p is a prime, or p is a square free integer. Notice that the field of algebraic numbers is countable. The field of algebraic numbers is countable, because fixing a degree, there are only countably many polynomials with integer coefficients of that particular degree, and each polynomial has only degree n number of roots in C. In fact, it has all the roots in C because C is algebraically closed. Therefore, the set of all roots of all polynomials of a given degree is again countable. And now you vary the degrees from 0 to infinity, then it's a countable union of countable sets, which is again countable. It's a countable subfield of C which is uncountable. So therefore, there are uncountably many complex numbers which are not algebraic, which are called the transcendental numbers. Since C is uncountable, there are uncountably many complex numbers which are not algebraic, and they are called transcendental numbers. The emphasis of this lecture is on special kind of algebraic numbers called algebraic integers. Algebraic integers are those algebraic numbers which satisfy a polynomial equation with integer coefficients where the leading coefficient is 1, that is which are roots of a monic polynomial with integer coefficients. And what we are going to show is character values of any representation, they are algebraic integers. Let us begin with this definition. A complex number z is called an algebraic integer if it is root of a monic polynomial with integer coefficients. In particular, an algebraic integer is an algebraic number. Recall that a polynomial is said to be monic if the coefficient of the leading term is 1. So that is, there exists a polynomial let us say fx equals to x power n plus an minus 1 x power n minus 1 plus so on plus a1x plus a0, where all these ai's are in integers and f of z is 0. Coefficient of the leading term is 1. So let us make some observations about algebraic integers. All integers are obviously algebraic integers. If you take any n in z, then the polynomial fx equals to x minus n has n as its root. All the nth roots of unity in C are algebraic integers, because if zeta belongs to C such that zeta to power n is 1, then fx equals to x power n minus 1 has zeta as its root. Let's see another example. If we take any n by n integer matrix, then it has all its eigenvalues in C, because C is algebraically closed, and all eigenvalues are actually algebraic integers. So if A is a n by n matrix with integer entries, and then the characteristic polynomial of A is given by f of x is equals to determinant of this matrix, right, xi minus a, which is a monic polynomial, which is a monic polynomial over Z. Since the characteristic polynomial of an n by n matrix with integer entries is a monic polynomial over integers, all its roots are going to be algebraic integers because they satisfy this equation. Furthermore, if Z is an algebraic integer, then minus Z is also an algebraic integer, and in fact Z bar is also an algebraic integer. So if Z belong to C is an algebraic integer, then so are minus Z and the complex conjugate Z bar. Let's see this. If fx is a monic polynomial over Z such that f of Z is equals to 0, then g of x, you define g of x to be either f of minus x or minus of f of minus x is a monic polynomial with g of minus z is equals to 0. Because if fx is a monic polynomial over integers such that f of z is 0, then take gx to be f of minus x if degree of f is even, and take gx to be minus of f of minus x if degree of f is odd. In either case, gx turns out to be a monic polynomial and g of minus z is 0. Therefore, if z is an algebraic integer, then minus z is also an algebraic integer. Further, g of z equals to 0 implies that g of z bar is also equal to 0. So the same polynomial g is the desired monic polynomial for which z bar is a root. So these are the basic observations we need about algebraic integers to prove that character values are also algebraic integers. Let's analyze which rational numbers are algebraic integers. Very simple observation. A rational number is an algebraic integer if and only if it is an integer. Let's prove it. If the rational number is an integer, then it is definitely an algebraic integer. Suppose you have a rational number which is an algebraic integer. Let R belong to Q be an algebraic integer. Since R is a rational number, then we can write R as m by n, okay, where n is positive and m and n GCD is 1. Now since R is an algebraic integer, there is a monic polynomial with integer coefficient that is satisfied by R. So let fx belong to z of x be the monic polynomial such that f of R is 0. Let us write the polynomial. So let f of x equals to x power k plus ak minus 1 x power k minus 1 plus so on plus a1x plus a0, where these ai's are of course integers. Then f of R equals to 0 implies that 0 is same as m by n whole to the power k plus ak minus 1 m by n to the power k minus 1 plus so on plus a1 m by n plus a0. Doing the cross multiplication gives m to the power k can be written as minus of ak minus 1 m to the power k minus 1 times n plus so on plus a1 m n to the power k minus 1 plus a naught n to the power k. You see that all of these terms have n in common. This implies that n divides m to the power k. But m and n are co-prime. Since m and n are co-prime, we have that the only possibility is n should be equals to plus or minus 1, which implies that R is in fact an integer. Let's prove a characterization of an algebraic integer, a necessary and sufficient condition for a complex number to be an algebraic integer. A complex number z belonging to C is an algebraic integer if and only if there exists complex numbers, let us say y1, y2 and so on, finitely many of them, let us say yt, not all of them 0, such that we can write z into yi can be written as an integer linear combination of these yi's, summation aij yj, where j go from 1 to t, where aij is an integer for all I and j. Let us prove this. Let z belonging to C be an algebraic integer. Then By definition, there exists a monic polynomial with integer coefficient satisfied by z. Then there exists a monic polynomial let us call it fx equals to x to the power n plus an minus 1 x to the power n minus 1 plus so on plus a1x plus a0 ai is in z such that f of z is 0. This implies that z to the power n can be written as minus a0 minus a1 into z minus so on minus an minus 1 into z to the power n minus 1. Take yi to be z to power I, then we can write z to the power n can be written as z into z to power n minus 1, that is same as z into z to power n minus 1, and that I write it as y of n minus 1, right, and that is same as minus a0 into y0 minus a1 into y1 so on minus an minus 1 into yn minus 1, where y0 is 1. So we are able to write z into yn minus 1 as an integer linear combination of these yi's. What about z into y0, z into y1 and so on? Notice that z into yi by definition is same as z into z to the power I, that is same as z to the power I plus 1, but that I have set as yi plus 1, and this works if I take I to be bigger than or equal to 0 and less than or equals to n minus 2. So z into yi is just yi plus 1. So it is also an integer linear combination of yi's where only one yi plus 1 survives. This proves a forward implication. For the converse part, suppose that there exists these complex numbers. Suppose that there exists this y1, y2 and so on yt in C not or 0 such that each zy can be written as some integer linear combination of these yi's, aij's, yj, where j going from 1 to t with aij's in integers. Let us set A to be the matrix whose ijth entry is aij, and let us write Y to be this column matrix consisting of y1, y2, so on yt. Now what does the condition zy equals to summation aij yj j from 1 to t implies? This simply implies that if you multiply the matrix A with the column matrix Y, you again land up into a column matrix, and therefore the ith row entry is given as follows. So if you consider the matrix AY and consider its ith row entry, this by definition is going to be summation aij yj j from 1 to t, right, and that I am setting as z yi, that is same as z, take the matrix Y and choose its ith entry. Implies that we have this equation of matrices ay equals to z times y. Now notice that you are given that at least one of the yt's is not equal to 0. So where at least one of the yi is not equal to 0. This is part of the hypothesis, right? This implies that y is a non-zero vector in Cn So since y is not equal to 0, z is an eigenvalue of the matrix A. But what kind of matrix is A? A is a n by n integer matrix. And just now we observed that if you are given a integer matrix and if you take its characteristic polynomial, it is going to be a monic polynomial and all its roots are going to be algebraic integers. Now since z is an eigenvalue, is a root of the characteristic polynomial of A, this implies that z is an algebraic integer. This implies that z is an algebraic integer. So this completes the proof of the proposition. If you look at the set of all algebraic integers in C, it is a subring of C. Notice that the set of all algebraic integers can never be a field, because if you have an algebraic integers, there is no reason why its inverse should again be an algebraic integer. For example, if you take any integer, then we know it's an algebraic integer. But if we take its inverse in C, that is 1 by n, then it is not an algebraic integer, because 1 by n is a rational number, and just now we showed that a rational number is an algebraic integer if and only if it is an integer. Proof. Let's give a name to the set of all algebraic integers in C. So let A be the set of all algebraic integers in C. Set of all algebraic integers in C. Then we know that 0 is of course in A, right? The polynomial fx equal to x is a monic polynomial which vanishes at 0. Also we know that if z is an algebraic integer, then minus z is also an algebraic integer. So to show that it's a subring, we just need to show that if we take two algebraic integers, then their sum is an algebraic integer and their product is an algebraic integer. So we are going to use the preceding characterization of algebraic integers. So let z comma z prime belong to A, B two algebraic integers. By the preceding proposition, there exist complex numbers y1, y2, so on, yt, and y1 prime, y2 prime, so on, ys prime, not all 0 in each of the collection, such that zy can be written as aij, yj, j from 1 to t, and z prime, y k prime can be written as summation bkj yj prime, where j go from 1 to s, where as in the preceding proposition this aij's and bkj's, they are integers. Once we have this description of these products, now we can just check that the same thing hold for z plus z prime and z into z prime. That by the preceding proposition would imply that z plus z prime and z into z prime is also an algebraic integer. Then we have that z plus z prime, and look at this product yi into yk prime. This I can open it up and write it as z into yi into yk prime plus z prime into yi into yk prime. But I know that z into yi has this integer linear combination of yj's, and similarly z prime into yk prime has this integer linear combination of yj primes. Just plug in the value and I get summation j from 1 to t of aij's into yj into yk prime plus summation j from 1 to s bkj's yj prime into yi. Thus z plus z prime times yi yk prime has been written as an integer linear combination of yj yk primes. So therefore this new collection of complex numbers not all 0 given by yi yk prime serves the purpose for z plus z prime. That is z plus z prime into yi yk prime is expressed as integer linear combination of elements from the set yj yl primes, okay, where of course you vary j from 1 to t and l from 1 to s. And since at least one of the entry in yj's and one of the entries in yl primes is non-zero, so therefore at least one of the entries in this set is also non-zero. Therefore by the preceding proposition, z plus z prime is also in A. That is, z plus z prime is also an algebraic integer. Similarly, we can write the product z z prime into yi yk prime as zy into z prime yk prime, but zy is an integer linear combination of yi's and z prime yk prime is an integer linear combination of yj primes. So therefore this product can be written as an integer linear combination of this product yj yl primes. So again by the proposition, this implies that the product zz prime is an algebraic integer. Hence A is a subring of C. In fact, it is a subring of the algebraic closure of Q in C. So this fact will be useful many times when you have two algebraic integers and you want to show their certain product, certain linear combination is again an algebraic integer. We can now use this corollary to show that character values are always algebraic integers. Proposition: let chi from G to C be a character of a finite group G, then chi of G is an algebraic integer for all group element G in G. So let phi from G to GL and C be the representation of G whose character is chi, and let M be the order of the group. So if G is an element of the group G, then G to the power M is 1, because order of every element divide order of the group G. So this implies that phi of G to the power M is same as phi of G, so on, phi of G M times, okay, which is same as phi of G to the power M. But notice that G to power M is 1, so phi of g to the power m is same as phi of 1, which is the identity matrix. So, that is the matrix phi of g is of order m. My claim is that phi g is a diagonalizable matrix. So, for that, consider this group H the cyclic group of order m and define psi from H to GLNC by psi of the generator 1 bar of Z mod mz to be the matrix phi g. Now, since phi g to the power m is 1, it turns out that psi is a group homomorphism and hence a representation of the group H into GLNC. Now, by Mashke's theorem, the representation psi is a direct sum of irreducible representations. So, it can be written as psi 1, direct sum psi 2, direct sum so on, direct sum psi of n, where each of the psi I is irreducible and in fact degree 1, because psi is a representation of an abelian group. This implies that psi of 1 bar, which is the matrix phi g, is a diagonal matrix. If lambda 1, lambda 2, so on, lambda n are the eigenvalues of the matrix phi g, then since phi g to the power m is 1, it follows that all these eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n are mth roots of unity. Since we have just shown that roots of unity are algebraic integers, and chi of g by definition is trace of phi g, but since lambda 1 to lambda n are the eigenvalues of the matrix phi g, trace is just lambda 1 plus lambda 2 plus lambda n, and each of which is an algebraic integer, it follows that chi g is also an algebraic integer. This completes the proof of this result. Next, we prove an important result which plays a crucial role in proving our main theorem, the dimension theorem. Let phi be an irreducible representation of a finite group G, and let us say that D be the degree of this representation of degree D. Let G be an element of the group G, and let Cg be the size of the conjugacy class of G, the number of elements in the conjugacy class of the element G. Then look at this complex number Cg, which is an integer, times chi phi of G, which is a complex number, possibly a complex number, divided by the degree of the representation d. This is an algebraic integer. Notice that chi phi g is an algebraic integer by the preceding result, and therefore Cg times chi phi g is an algebraic integer. But we are dividing it by an integer. It is not so clear why it should be an algebraic integer. Let us prove it. So, let C1, C2, so on, Cs be the conjugacy classes of the group G. Let mod Ci denote the size of the conjugacy class of Ci. So, consider this transformation Ti, which I set as summation phi x, where x is in the conjugacy class Ci. Each phi x is an invertible linear transformation or an invertible matrix, whichever way you want to see. Therefore, phi g is a sum of this, and therefore it is a transformation, not necessarily invertible. Now, since trace is a class function, therefore it takes a constant value on each conjugacy class. So, let Zi be the value of chi phi on the conjugacy class Ci. We divide our proof into various claims. Claim number 1, the transformation Ti is same as cardinality of Ci divided by degree of the representation times the character value on the conjugacy class Ci Zi. Look at this complex numbers times the identity matrix. So, let us prove it. So, notice that phi g Ti phi g inverse. What is this? This is same as phi g, plug in the value of Ti, that is summation phi x, x in the conjugacy class Ci into phi g inverse, that is same as summation x in the conjugacy class Ci into phi g phi x phi g inverse. But phi is a homomorphism being a representation. This is same as summation x in Ci phi of g x G inverse, but G x G inverse is again in the conjugacy class Ci. Therefore, after relabeling, this can be written as summation phi y y in the conjugacy class Ci, which is again Ti. What does this imply? This implies that Ti is a morphism from phi to phi. Now, since phi is given to be an irreducible representation by Schur's lemma, Ti is scalar multiple of the identity. So, Ti is lambda I into I for some lambda I in C. All right. So, now consider d lambda I. This is same as trace of the scalar matrix lambda I into I, but that is same as trace of Ti, which is same as sum of the traces of phi x as x run in the conjugacy class Ci. So, that is summation of trace of phi x where x is in Ci, which is further same as x is in Ci chi phi of x, but chi phi of x as x in Ci we have set as Zi. So, this is same as Zi times the size of the conjugacy class Ci, that is order Ci times Zi. So, this implies that lambda I is cardinality of Ci into Zi divided by d, which implies that, plugging in further, which implies that Ti is same as cardinality of Ci into Zi divided by d times the identity matrix. So, let us prove claim number 2, which says that Ti Tj is same as summation Aij k into Tk, and the summation runs over k from 1 to s, the number of conjugacy classes in the group G, where Aij k's are integers. So, we already know what the definition of Ti is. Ti is simply summation of phi x as x in the conjugacy class Ci. So, consider Ti Tj, just plug in the value of Ti. So, Ti is same as summation phi x, x is in the conjugacy class Ci, multiplied by summation phi y, y is in the conjugacy class Cj, but that is same as summation phi x phi y, which is same as phi of x y, because phi is a homomorphism, x is in the conjugacy class Ci, y is in the conjugacy class Cj, which is same as. Now, what I do is the following. So, it may happen for different entries in Ci and Cj, the product may give the same group element. For example, you may have x and x prime in Ci and y prime in Cj, such that x into y is same as x prime into y prime as group element. So, I want to club such terms together. So, those, when I club these terms together, that will give me some integer coefficients. Thus, we have summation Aij g, g in the group G, and phi sub g, where Aij g is an integer which denote the number of ways in which we can write G equals to xy for x in the conjugacy class Ci and y in the conjugacy class Cj. My claim is that these integers a, I, j, g depend only on the conjugacy class of the element G. So, we make this intermediate claim. We claim that these integers a, I, j, g depends only on the conjugacy class of the element G. That is, if G and G prime are conjugate to each other, then the integer a, I, j, g is same as a, I, j, g prime. Let us see how to really understand this integer a, I, j, g. So, consider this set x sub g, which consists of x y such that x is in Ci and y is in Cj, and product of x y is g. then notice that cardinality of Xg is precisely Aijg. It is precisely counting the number of times, the number of ways in which I can write G as xy, where x is from Ci and y from Cj. So, let us take two elements in the group G, G prime in the group G such that they are conjugate to each other. So, there exists an element K in the group G such that G prime can be written as Kg K inverse. Okay. My claim is that cardinality of Xg is same as cardinality of Xg prime. So, I define a map which I claim is a bijection. So, define f from x sub g to x sub g prime by the following. F will take a pair xy and map it to kx K inverse and ky K inverse. Let us see whether this map is well defined. For that we need to see that if xy is in x sub g, that is xy become g, then we should show that kx K inverse into ky K inverse is same as g prime. So, notice that kx K inverse is in the conjugacy class of Ci and ky K inverse is in the conjugacy class of Cj whenever x is in the conjugacy class Ci and y is in the conjugacy class Cj. That is a simple observation. Further, look at this, kx K inverse into ky K inverse is same as kxy K inverse, but xy is g. So, that is same as kg K inverse, but that is same as g prime. So, this implies that whenever you have xy is in x sub g, then the f image f of xy is in x sub g prime. So, f is well defined map. All right. In fact, f is in fact a bijection, and we can write down the bijection explicitly with inverse given by so you take x prime y prime in x sub g prime and just map it to k inverse x prime k and k inverse y prime k, and one can check directly that this map is the inverse of the map f. Hence, cardinality of the set x sub g is same as cardinality of the set x sub g prime. So, therefore, these coefficients a, I, j, g depend only on the conjugacy class of the element g, and we can replace a, I, j, g by a, I, j, k, where k correspond to the conjugacy class C k in which the element g lies. Thus, we can write T I T j as summation a, I, j, g phi g, g is in the group g, that we can. So, now the group is a union of conjugacy classes, therefore, we can rewrite this sum as summation k from 1 to s, where s is the total number of conjugacy classes, then summation a, I, j, g phi g, where g belong to the conjugacy class C k. But now, for each conjugacy class a, I, j, g is the same. So, we can take it out and write it as summation k from 1 to s, summation a, I, j, k phi g, g in the conjugacy class Ck. So, this coefficient Aijk will come out. This is same as summation k from 1 to s Aijk and then summation of phi g, g is in the conjugacy class Ck, which is just same as Tk. This is what claim 2 was. So, thus from claim 1 we have that Ti is same as cardinality of the conjugacy class Ci into the value of the character on the conjugacy class Ci, that is Zi, divided by degree of the representation times the identity matrix, and from the claim 2 we have Ti Tj is same as summation Aijk k from 1 to s, s is the total number of conjugacy classes, into Tk, where of course Aijk are integers. Now we substitute the expression of Ti in the second expression. And this gives cardinality of Ci into Zi divided by degree of the representation cardinality of Cj into Zj divided by degree of the representation is same as summation Aijk k from 1 to s into cardinality of Ck into Zk divided by degree of the representation d. Hence, by the criteria for a complex number to be an algebraic integer, it follows that cardinality of Ci into value of the character on this conjugacy class Ci, that is Zi, divided by d, the degree of the representation, is an algebraic integer. That is cardinality of Ci into Zi divided by d is an algebraic integer. Since at least one of the complex numbers cardinality of Ck into Zk divided by d is non-zero. Why? Because cardinality of Ck is always a positive integer, d, the degree of the representation, is a positive integer, and Zk is a character value on the conjugacy class Ck. Since phi is an irreducible representation, at least one of the Zk is non-zero. Because phi is an irreducible representation, therefore inner product of its character chi phi with itself is 1, and if Zk is 0 for each conjugacy class Ck, that would imply that chi phi is 0, a contradiction. Therefore, irreducibility of the representation phi guarantees that one of these complex numbers cardinality of Ck into Zk divided by d is non-zero, and we can use the criteria for a complex number to be an algebraic integer. We now prove our main theorem, the dimension theorem. Very nice result. So, let phi be an irreducible representation of a finite group G. Then degree of the representation phi divides order of the group G. So, let us prove it. So, since phi is an irreducible representation, we have that one should be same as the inner product of its character with itself. So 1 equals to chi phi, which is same as 1 by order of the group G summation G in the group G chi phi of G bar. All right, which implies that order of the group G divided by D is same as summation G in the group G chi phi G divided by D chi phi of G bar. Now we will rewrite this sum. So we enumerate the conjugacy classes. Let C1, C2, so on, Cs be the conjugacy classes of the group G. Then and let Zi be the value of the character chi phi on the conjugacy class Ci. Then we can rewrite the above sum as order of G divided by D is same as summation I from 1 to S as the total number of conjugacy classes, summation as you vary G in the conjugacy class Ci chi phi of G divided by D into chi phi of G bar. That can be written as summation I from 1 to S summation G in Ci but chi phi of G is Zi on the conjugacy class Ci, so it is Zi of D divided by Zi bar, which is same as summation I from 1 to S but Zi by D is a constant on the conjugacy class Ci, so it is order of Ci times that constant. So order of Ci into Zi divided by D into Zi bar. What do we get from here? Notice that order of Ci into Zi divided by D is an algebraic integer by the preceding theorem, and Zi are the character values on the conjugacy classes. They are also algebraic integers, which we proved in this lecture, and product of algebraic integers is an algebraic integer, sums of algebraic integers is an algebraic integer. Therefore, the right hand side is an algebraic integer. This implies that order of G divided by D is an algebraic integer, but order of G divided by D is a rational number, and we know that a rational number is an algebraic integer if and only if it is an integer. Hence, order of G by D is an integer and D divides order of the group G. This proves the theorem, a very beautiful theorem, and this theorem can be used for finding irreducible representations of finite groups. So let me state a generalization of this theorem, which I am not going to prove in this lecture, but we can discuss it during the tutorials. A generalization of the dimension theorem. If phi is an irreducible representation of a finite group G then degree of phi divides order of G by center of the group G. This in particular would imply the dimension theorem because order of G by center of the group G divides order of the group. This can be proved using idea of tensor product or representations. Let us write some interesting consequences of the dimension theorem, some well known results from group theory. So, let G be a group of order p square where p is a prime, then G is abelian. You might have already seen this result, and it can be proved using class equation. So, here we are going to prove it using representation theory, the results that we developed today, in particular dimension theorem. So, proof: let d1, d2 so on ds be the degrees of irreducible representations of the group G. Then by dimension theorem we know that each of these di's divide order of the group G. Also recall that if you are given degrees of irreducible representation of a group G, then order of the group G is sums of squares of these degrees. So, order of the group G is d1 square plus d2 square plus so on plus ds square. Now, since these degrees di divide order of the group G by dimension theorem, the possibilities are each di is either 1, p or p square. Let us label this equation order of G equal to d1 square plus d2 square plus ds square as some star. So, equation star implies that each di must be 1, because if any of the di is p square, then the right hand side become larger than p square, and if any of the di is p, then also the right hand side become larger than p square, which is order of the group. Thus, each di should be 1. That implies that each irreducible representation of the group is of degree 1, and hence the group must be abelian. This proves the corollary. Let us write another interesting consequence of the dimension theorem, corollary. Let P and Q be two primes with P less than Q and Q not congruent to 1 mod P. Then any group of order PQ must be abelian. Let us prove this result. Let d1, d2 so on ds be the degrees of the irreducible representations of the group G. Then by dimension theorem again, each of these di divide order of the group G, which is PQ. Further, we know that order of the group G is, which is PQ, is same as d1 square plus d2 square plus so on plus ds square. This implies that each of the degree di is either 1 or p, because if any of the degree di is q, then the right hand side become 1 plus q square, which is bigger than p into q, because p is bigger than q, where 1 correspond to degree of the trivial representation, which will be a contradiction. Suppose that G has n degree p representations and m degree 1 irreducible representations. Then PQ, let us call this equation as star, then star gives that PQ is same as m plus p times n times p square. Notice that degree 1 representations of a finite group G are in bijection with the degree 1 representations of its abelianization, which is G mod its commutator subgroup, and the number of degree 1 representations of an abelian group is precisely the order of the group G. Thus, M is same as order of G mod G prime, which always divides order of the group G. Therefore, M divides order of the group G. But what are the possibilities for M? Further, PQ equals to M plus NP square implies that P divides M. Therefore, what are the possibilities for M? M is either P or PQ. It cannot be Q, because P and Q are distinct primes. This implies that M is P or PQ. If M equals to P, then PQ equals to P plus NP square implies that Q equals to 1 plus NP. Which implies that Q is congruent to 1 mod P, which is a contradiction. Therefore, the only possibility is that M should be PQ. But recall that M is the number of degree 1 representations of the group G, and we are saying that the number of degree 1 representations of the group G is PQ, which is order of the group G, which implies that the group G must be abelian. This completes the proof of the corollary. So, I will stop here. Thank you.